All right, this week we're only going to do 2 doll shirts, but I hope you enjoy them. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy these are to do. All right, for this t-shirt, we're going to use some of these fabric paints that come in the little bottles. Now, these are sometimes called puffy paints. In fact, that one's called that on the front. They're sometimes called 3D paints. They go by different names, but they come in these kind of bottles. Sometimes they come in bigger bottles, or like this. This is a glitter paint by Tulip, and these are just different colors. That's the gold glitter we used last week on our other shirts. I'm going to turn the shirt right side up to me. Now, a couple of things to be aware of. Don't touch this until the paint dries. I'm going to back you up just a little bit so you can see more of the shirt. This stuff will need to dry, and it smears really badly before it dries. Also, they can get air in them. So be sure and store them right side up so they will stay working. But when you go to use them, have a piece of paper, scrap paper or scrap fabric or something off to the side that you can start them on. Never start them on your project because that's a good way to get big splotches of paint. I'm just going to make some little designs on here. I'm not an artist. I'm not really good at making really great designs, but I'm going to do my best for you guys. Now, don't put too much paint out because this stuff will get kind of big and gloppy, and then it looks out of scale on the dolls. But you can kind of use the tip to kind of drag the paint around. So, okay, we're going to go a little bit more to kind of make that a little more even. It's a couple little hearts. Let's see what we can do with, let's get some gold on here. And again, over on here to start out with. I'll do a couple of hearts with this one. And don't squeeze too hard or you'll get a bunch of paint out at once. I'm not going to do a whole lot with each one. I'm just going to give you just a little bit of an idea what you might want to do with yours. And then the yellow. And you can always, like last week, we used the gold in addition to our other fabric paint. It's fun to mix and match these different techniques and get a truly unique design that you've on your doll shirt or whatever you're decorating. All right, let's do this red glitter one, and then I think that's all we're going to do. But I'm going to show you a couple little things that you'll need to do with your paints. And these come in tons of colors. You can get these at like fabric stores or any place that has stuff to decorate fabric should have at least some brand of these. So now this needs to sit flat and dry, and it'll take a few hours to overnight to dry depending on how warm your room is. Now, one thing you'll notice with these, they have a really skinny nozzle here. And if paint dries up there, it'll plug it. So what I like to do is after I put the lid on, I will kind of bang my containers on their bottom onto a table. That will kind of help the paint to settle down inside of the jar instead of up here. If they do get plugged, you can very carefully remove the top and use a toothpick or a cotton swab or something like that to clean it out. Just be sure that when you put it back, you get it all the way in and it snaps, because if it doesn't, that's liable to come out on your garment that you're decorating. So until that dries, that's about all I've got to say about this one. Let's let that dry and we'll come back and look at it. All right, now these have dried overnight and I think they look really cute. You could do any design that you can come up with. So that's our first design for this week. Let's move on to something else that's fun. All right, for this little t-shirt, we are going to do another applique process, and we're going to use another Heat and Bond product. Before we've used Heat and Bond Ultra. And Heat and Bond Ultra it's intended to be used alone and then not sewn through. Today we're using Heat and Bond Light. This product is designed so that you can sew through it. It won't gum up your machine, but it also won't hold the item on permanently, so you do need to sew through it. And it comes just like the other, either by the yard or in a pre-cut package. I've got this here. This is a leftover I've got from somewhere, you know, something I made a long time ago. Excuse me. I'm having a lot of allergy problems, so my voice is liable to come and go as we go. So I've got this little design. So all I did was I went on Google and I Googled, I think, simple line drawing flower. You could trace around a cookie cutter. You could freehand draw this if you're artistic. You could use a coloring book design. Anything that's about the right size. And I kind of played around with seeing if I thought I wanted a leaf. I decided I didn't. I decided to just do 2 colors of fabric for the flower and keep it really simple. So I'm going to, and our Heat and Bond is thin enough that I can see through it. So I'm going to lay it over, and on this part I'm just going to, and it doesn't have to be perfectly traced. I'm drawing on the paper side of the Heat and Bond, not on the glue side. I'm going to trace around this, and I can do correcting when I go to cut it out. I'm going to shift over, and I'm going to trace around the circle. Now I have no idea what the site was that I got this from. I actually did this part of this project, oh gosh, I think 2 weeks ago. I've been kind of busy. So now I need to go find a pair of scissors. I'm going to cut roughly around here. Oh, I'll talk about the fabric I've got. So I've got this. This is going to be the flower. Now normally I would say this is not an appropriate fabric for a doll outfit because the design is way too big, but because of how I'm going to use this, that's going to work just fine. It's just going to look like a random design on the fabric. It's not going to look like something too big. This I decided to use for the center of my flower, and I'm going to try and cut it so that I'm not centered over a flower, but kind of offset. We'll see how it looks. So let me go roughly cut around this, and I'll meet you at the ironing board. All right, same ugly ironing board cover in the very dark corner of my living room. So here I've roughly cut around these. In fact, I think I'm going to cut just a tiny bit closer, but I want some space around because I want to make sure that the glue on the back of here transfers all the way around my pieces. So let's start with the circle. This is going to be the center of our flower. And I'm going to kind of put it, you're probably not going to be able to see, but I'm going to kind of do it where I have maybe a little of the flower. Now, this just takes just a couple of seconds to get this down on there. Now, I've got my scissors here. I'm going to cut this away from my big piece of fabric so that I don't have to handle both pieces. And now this one, it won't really matter where it's going to be. We're just going to put that there. And I'm going to use my fabric scissors because I am cutting the fabric. And I'm just going to cut along the pencil line. So I'm going to turn the camera off and I'm going to get this one cut out and then I'll be back. Alright, I have my t-shirt laid out here. I have the 2 little pieces cut out. And obviously you could do any design you wanted. You could make a much more complicated design. I wanted to keep it simple. Now I'm just kind of ironing on my shirt just to make sure everything is, the fabric is dry and it's kind of warmed up. It works a little better. So here is my center point of my front. And I want this probably right about here. This might help if I actually peel the back off. Now a lot of times on these, peeling the back off is going to be the hardest part of the whole project. There. All right. This does peel off a little bit easier than when we're doing the Ultra, I've noticed. All right. So that's about where I want it. I like that. And you follow the directions on the packaging for time and temperature on your iron. Don't go any hotter than it says. It's always okay to go a little lower temperature. It might just take a little longer. But if you go any higher, the glue just won't work. There we go. I'm going to put this one in the center of my flower. And I'm going to, all right, now that's held down long enough, well enough that we can go ahead and stitch it with either by machine or by hand. I'm going to use my machine. So I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to go set up my sewing machine with the right thread, and I will meet you there. All right, off camera, I have threaded my machine with this really pretty pink thread. It is pulled too tight on this because it's just a single layer of fabric. I just wanted to get the stitch length and the stitch width. I will try to remember to take a picture of the settings. I've got my machine set on, but of course your machine will be different. But this is just a very narrow, quite dense zigzag, which you'll get to see at the end, and I'll also take a picture of the finished, up-close picture of the finished product and put it on the blog. So now I'm just going along where my stitches are, half on and about and half off, just barely clearing the side of the fabric of the flower. And then as you go around curves, you're going to have to lift and rotate. I'm only going to go around the first petal, and then I will turn the camera off and do the rest off camera, because this is not a very exciting thing to watch. And you do have to go really, really slow. Let's see if I get this turned so the t-shirt is not directly in your line of view. I wish I could get the camera up so that you could see the angle I see, because that would be easier. Now, get all the way to the end of that first petal, and now to go down the second petal, I'm going to do that. I'm going to rotate it. So I am going to finish sewing around the outer pink flower, and then I'll be back. All right, not sure why we have that shadow. So there is the shirt, the flower on the shirt. And I took a picture of this so you can check that on the blog post. But I've sewn all the way around. Now I'm going to go around this center circle. Now we can use the same stitch, or you could use a different stitch on your machine as far as that goes. You could use a decorative stitch. You could use a straight stitch. This is just what I'm using, but you can do yours however you want. I'm lowering the presser foot so the edge of that round piece is lined up with the center of my presser foot. I know you guys can't see a whole lot. In this one, I'm probably going to take about that many stitches and then just rotate, lift the presser foot and rotate just a tiny bit. Now, if you don't have a sewing machine or don't want to use it, you could definitely do this stitching by hand. It would look really nice. If you have a more open-toed foot for your machine, this would be a really good place to use it. I'm kind of wishing I would have done that, but I will get around it. All right. So I'm going to turn you on, or turn the camera off and move you so I can see what I'm doing better. And when this is on, I'll be right back. All right, here's our completed shirt. I went ahead and put it on the doll, but I went around that center. Yeah, the center could have been neater, but I'm happy with it. I love how this turned out. And you can see that bold design, that large oversized design on that fabric, it doesn't read as that on this little tiny piece of it. If it would have been a bigger piece, it wouldn't have worked. but because it's such a small piece, it works really well as the applique. It just makes it look like texture. So I think that's all we're going to do. So we only did 2 shirts this week. We did this one, and I will admit I filmed this the same day I filmed the last part of the last doll t-shirt decorating video, but I have been swamped with other stuff, so I didn't really have a chance to get to this one until today, and I had a couple of others that I was going to put in this video, but I'm having trouble getting them to turn out the way I want them to, and I want to get a video to you this week. So this week, only 2 t-shirts. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're learning something. Be sure and check the blog post for pictures. Be sure and share the link to the channel and the blog with any of your friends that do dolls, also the Facebook page. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscription button along with that notification bell, and hit the like button on the video. That will help more people to see the video. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.